Hello and welcome to Dice and Demons. I'm Emma, and in this video I'm going to tell you why you don't need hobby motivation to get your hobby projects off the ground. And it may sound a little bit strange to you because a lot of us have been sort of ingrained with the whole idea that if we want to do a hobby project, whether it's building models, painting them, playing games, reading books, any sort of thing, then we need motivation to get going. And if it for some reason doesn't happen, then it's probably because, well, we're just not motivated enough and we just need to pull ourselves together. And it just has this ring of truth to it that I think makes it a little bit hard to go against. But I'll just try to get a little bit more of a perspective on this whole idea in this video, because perhaps motivation is not actually what is wrong with your, well, lack of hobbying. Perhaps it's something else. So I want to give an example. So I have built and, well, not quite painted it's supposed to be a death killer war trike for my Bubblegum Boys army for 40k, and I built it and kit bashed it with my friend Anne, and we had a lot of fun, and I think this is really exciting and I really want to get it painted. And well, it's sort of halfway there, and I've spent a lot of time working on it, well, in my mind at least, and that's the whole thing, because I really want to get it done, because I think it looks fun, and I always enjoy painting kit bashed models. It's just it just adds a little bit extra, but it has just taken me a lot longer than expected to get to this sort of halfway done stage, and I felt a little bit bad about it. Sort of like, I should be able to do this. I have a lot of time for painting, and if I don't paint, then it feels like I'm just a little bit lazy, and I just need to, well, get my hobby motivation back and pull myself together and just do it. And then yesterday I was driving in my car and I heard a show on the radio where they interviewed a psychologist called Dorte Birkmose. She's a Danish psychologist, and she works with, well, she works in sort of the social and healthcare sector here in Denmark, but she also works with motivation. And what she said was, it just really struck a note in me, because she said, nobody needs to be motivated. People, like human beings, are intrinsically motivated to do stuff. It may not always be the things we want them to do. So again, she's talking from sort of a social work healthcare perspective. So you might be someone working with patients and you really want them to get motivated to stop smoking, and perhaps the patients are just not motivated to do that, but they have other sorts of motivation. And so instead of trying to force your idea of what people should be motivated about down their throats almost, you should instead sort of latch on to what they are actually motivated for. And I think if you're watching this video, you're probably motivated to hobby. You are probably really interested in the wargaming hobby. You probably paint, you build, perhaps you play games, perhaps you go to tournaments, whatever. It's a hobby that you really want to engage with. And so what the psychologist said was that, everyone is already intrinsically motivated. But what stops people who may want to stop smoking, or who they want to lose weight and live a healthier lifestyle, whatever. And people will think, oh, they're talking about it all the time. Like, I want to lose weight, I want to get some more exercise. And nothing happens. They just come home from work and then they just plop down on the couch and they never move. And she said that hasn't anything to do with a lack of motivation. It has a lot more to do with barriers. So even though you might be really, really motivated to do something, there might be a lot of barriers actually stopping you from doing so. And as I said, it just really hit home for me with my hobby sort of in general, and the whole idea of how we view people and motivation, and might have a tendency to look at ourselves or other people as a little bit lazy. And it also just made sense to me when it comes to my own hobbying and when it comes to this half-finished orc model, because there have actually been barriers the past couple of weeks for me doing my hobby things, and that barrier has been that I have been really exhausted. We've had a lot of projects at home, and there's been a lot of social stuff where I've been out with friends and stuff, which is all great, but it just means that I have used up all of my batteries, and I am just really, really tired. So that's also why, if you are following this channel, if you think, there haven't been any videos for a couple of weeks, why is that? Well, that's the reason. I even have some footage for tutorials I want to do, but I've just been, well, too tired really to do them. And so I thought, instead of trying to hit myself over the head with guilt and shame over not doing something and feeling like, "Ugh, I should just really pull myself together," perhaps it makes a lot more sense to look at it in terms of barriers or obstacles to doing our hobby. So what can be a barrier for you to do your hobby? Well, that depends, of course, entirely on your individual situation. So and it also, of course, depends a lot on how you want to engage with the hobby, because barriers to doing your hobby thing is perhaps a little bit different if you want to paint than if you want to build terrain, or if you want to play games or go to tournaments or whatever. So I would just want to give a couple of examples for what might be a barrier, and I'm speaking mostly to playing games like 40k or Age of Sigmar or Moonstone or whatever you want to play, and for sort of the creative hobby side as well. So for me, I know that if I want to paint and I don't do it, even though I am motivated to do so, there are some things that I can look at and perhaps try to change around, or at least make some decisions about. So one of the things is, if my hobby space is really cluttered and I feel like I don't have any room to work, then I will feel like it's just too difficult to paint, and I may go into my hobby room. I'm really fortunate that I have a dedicated hobby room. It's really small, but it's still really helpful to have it there. And not everyone has that. But if you have a hobby space, perhaps just cleaning it up will free up a lot of energy, because it can actually, clutter can take up a lot of room and energy in your mind, even if you're not very conscious about the fact that it does so. It's just always there, filling it up and making you a little bit tired and making you feel a little bit exhausted before you even get started with the actual hobbying. Another thing can be, for me, if I have a lot of half-finished projects and I don't know which one to start working on, and it also feels like no matter what project I start working on, it'll just take ages for it to be actually done. So it feels like the end goal of me actually having a finished model will just, it's just way out there. It'll take weeks, perhaps even months before something is done. And sometimes I just don't have the patience for it. Sometimes it feels like I just want a finished model in my hand, and every single project I'm working on is just such a big and involved and complicated thing that it's just not possible. And then from time to time, if I find that's the case, I'll just bring out a couple of really sort of easy, low investment models, you might say, like a couple of orc boys. I have, I think, 60 or 70 painted orc boys already, and I don't really need like 2 more. But it doesn't take that much time to finish a couple of orc boys, and then it feels like, oh, I finished something. These models are done, they're ready to go with the green tide, I can bring them the next time I want to play, and that's just awesome. Another thing might be if I think, okay, I'm doing these videos and I'm posting stuff on Instagram, and I have this anxiety about posting stuff sometimes, where I feel like, oh, this isn't that original. This is just something that I have already shown off before. Perhaps I should get more creative. I should get more original. I should think more outside of the box. And if you start having those sorts of thoughts, at least for me, I know that that instantly kills all creativity, because I'll just feel too anxious to think a single creative thought. And so what might help me in that case is to just, as I said, paint something simple where I don't set any sort of high expectations to myself, except that it would be nice to just paint something and finish it. Another thing might be if you feel like you have just too many models, you have a huge pile of shame, and you think I need to work on all of these things all at once. Well, perhaps some of the models you don't need to keep. Some of them you can perhaps sell. Perhaps some of them you can if they're like older beat up models, perhaps you can give them away to some good cause, you know. Just get rid of the clutter if you can. Another aspect of the hobby that I really want to engage with more is actually playing games. So playing games, especially of 40k and Age of Sigmar. And I haven't played a lot in, I think, the past 6 months. And I've sort of felt a little bit guilty about that because I have all these models and I actually have finished painted armies that I could put on the tabletop. And I just haven't done it. And I don't think it's because I haven't been motivated. I think it's because I have been struggling a bit with my mental health. I am autistic and I have ADHD, and I also have like severe burnout and stress reactions and so on, which means that my mental health really fluctuates. And when I'm in a sort of a down period, it's just too difficult for me to actually play a game. And the reason for that is both because I need to reach out to someone and ask if they want to play a game, and that can seem a little bit overwhelming. And it also has a lot to do with sort of the practical aspects of actually getting the models to the club where I usually play my games, because there are just a lot of models. If you want to bring 2,000 points of orcs to a game and you're playing like a green horde type of thing, then you are perhaps bringing 100 plus models, and just getting them all together and getting them, you know, packaged so they're ready to go, and figuring out exactly what kind of models you want to play, what data sheets you want to use, how the points line up. It can be actually, there are a lot of steps in that, and that can make it difficult for me at least. And so I really want to get back into 40k, and I especially want to get back into Age of Sigmar when the new version 4.0 drops. And I think I might want to invest some hobby money in finding a easy way of transporting my models. And I'm also thinking about if I can make some sort of pre-game cheat sheet for myself, like figuring out what kind of steps are actually involved in getting to play a game. So like reaching out and making arrangements with someone to actually play a game, figuring out the list, figuring out what models I want to bring and how to transport them, and then, you know, like a shopping list. Also, all the things you need your dice, you need a ruler, perhaps you need other sort of measures to count by, all those things, to make it perhaps a little bit more easy for myself, not to have to come up with all these things every single time I have to play a game. And I think that'll make it easier for me to play more games. I'm really hoping it will, because I definitely want to play games. I am actually motivated. There are just a lot of barriers for me to actually get to playing a game. Other barriers might be if you haven't played in a long time, like I haven't, you might feel like you have forgotten the rules, and you might be a little bit anxious if another person would enjoy playing with you, because I mean, you might be a little bit slow, and a way to combat that might be to reach out if you have sort of like online hobby communities, and reach out and say, so I haven't played for a long time, but I really want to get back into it. Is someone up for a, well, not quite introductory game, but still a game where we take it a little bit more slowly and have a little bit more time to look up our rules and stuff? Would that be okay with anyone? And my experience is that a lot of people are actually really helpful and really friendly and don't mind playing with you at all, even though you just want to, even though you might be just a little bit more slow than most people. Another thing might be going to tournaments. That can also be a little bit overwhelming. Well, frankly, it can be really overwhelming. But again, trying to find out what are the obstacles for you to going. Is it because you don't know exactly where it is? Perhaps you can get people to explain to you where it is, or perhaps someone even have photos of the venue where it's held at so you can see what it looks like. Perhaps it's because you don't know what to bring, and perhaps other people might have like a sort of a pre-tournament shopping list or packaging list to help you get started. All sorts of things. I generally find that if you ask people for help with hobby stuff like this, they are more than happy to actually help you and guide you, and that is just one of the ways I think this community is actually really awesome. If you find it a little bit difficult to come up with ideas of what might be barriers for you to actually engaging with the hobby the way that you would like to, perhaps you could try and play the devil's advocate to yourself and come up with a list of stuff that would definitely make it impossible, or at least really difficult for you to do your hobby things. So for me, that might be every time I am gonna paint, I have to get out all the paints, the brushes, the models, everything. I have to put them out on a table in the kitchen or whatever, and I can only paint for half an hour, and then I have to put all of it away and clean everything up. And that's because for me, as I said, it's a big help to have a dedicated hobby space, but perhaps you don't quite know that, but then try and thinking of it as a devil's advocate. What would make it difficult? Another thing might be if I'm gonna play, so what would make me really not want to play a game? And that would be if it was under really stressful conditions. So I recently read in a Facebook group about wargaming, and people were saying, so do you guys use chess clocks at tournaments? And I could just feel an immediate gut reaction that if I were gonna play a game with someone who insisted on using a chess clock, I would not want to play. And it was just such an immediate gut feeling that would just make me wanna, I would rather forfeit the game and just lose every single point available, even if it was in a tournament, than I would play with a chess clock. And that's not because I don't think it can be, I mean, I think it's probably very fair that you have chess clocks so that each side has as much time as the other. That's probably really fair in a tournament. But for me, it would take every single ounce of enjoyment away from the game. I would be so stressed out. I've tried playing actual chess with chess clocks, not tournaments or anything, just like at home with my brother and stuff. And I just can't. My mind simply just goes completely blank, and I get so stressed out that I get hit by immediate decision paralysis. I can make no decisions. I'm just sitting there looking at the board, really stressed out and not having fun at all, and just hoping that the clock runs out of time quite fast so that I can get it over with. So that would be on my list if I were to write like a devil's advocate situation for myself for playing, like chess clocks, stressful situations, running out of time. And I wasn't actually aware that mattered so much to me before I read that post online about using chess clocks, where I just knew, okay, it wouldn't just be like a barrier I could overcome. It would probably be something that would just make me absolutely not want to play. So, of course, this is really different for each person. So, just because I hate the idea of chess clocks, you might not. It might actually be motivating to you. It might be something you would find fun and an interesting challenge, which is completely cool. But try and come up with stuff that would really make you not want to engage with the hobby, and see if some of those barriers are actually present in your sort of hobby life already, and if some of them are barriers you can either reduce or perhaps completely remove. So this video, unfortunately, probably doesn't give you all the solutions to just spending all the time on your hobby that you want and getting all the results and playing all the amazing games that you have ever hoped to do. But I still hope that it just might give you a few thoughts and ideas as to how to identify some barriers and hopefully removing them or lowering them so that you can get to enjoy your hobby just a little bit more. And as always, before we leave, I would like to take the opportunity to thank the wonderful people who support Dice and Demons over on Patreon. So thank you so much to Thomas Madsen, Gwenna L, Jordan Hollands, Queen's Wolf, Double J's Terrain, Mola, Steve Everly, Nassim Makaya, Andrea Correa, Anthony Polcastro, Bosworth the Rogue, Mando Project, Starcon85, S. Bear, Economicus, Elliot Philby, Cyberfossil, Cinnamon Coffee 87, Terrainery, Joshua and Anya Pavelczyk, Charlie Robertson, and VT Knight 007. And of course, if you have any ideas or suggestions how to make it a little bit easier for you to engage with the hobby the way you really want to do, please write them in the comment section so that we can all learn from each other. Also, any sort of suggestions or ideas for future videos are always massively appreciated. Also remember that you can find me as Dice and Demons over on X, formerly known as Twitter, and on Instagram if you want to stay up to date on my painting projects. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye!